Test, test. I see Rob.
Yeah, trying to get the speaker adjusted here.
Yeah, okay.
Can you hear us, Clint?
I can.
Okay, perfect. How about you, Rob?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great.
Are you down south?
Who?
You?
Me?
Yeah,
No,
I see the ocean in the background. What?
I'm over at Sun River.
Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I'm still down south.
Hi, Rob.
Okay, call to order, Roseburg Airport Commission meeting. First thing up is roll call.
Tom Mikulek,
Here.
Frank Inman, Dan Sprague,
Here.
Clint Newell,
Here.
Rob Paul,
Here.
Steve Skinzik,
Here.
Art Redkay.
Here, and good afternoon.
Okay, first order of business is the minutes. I hope we've all had a chance to read them. And do we have a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll move approval.
I hear a second.
I'll second.
Approval of minutes, been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion about the minutes? I have a question for Ryan. I see that you're here. Ryan, can I ask you a question now, or would you rather me ask you later?
Can we do that after the memo presentation
Okay.
during our information period? Or is it a question on the minutes, Tom?
It's a question that comes off the minutes of last meeting, but I can ask you later. It's an easy one, I think.
I got one question. I think I brought it up that I think that the runway blacktop needs to be repainted with the yellow, and I don't see it as a recommendation here. The tie-down areas at the south end and north end really need it.
Yeah, I do remember that, and I have it noted for when we were striping this summer.
Okay, no big deal.
Frank, it's the second paragraph under airport runway rehab.
Right away in
I
there.
think that's what you're.
Yeah, it's in the minutes, Frank, under the business from the commission.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, it looks like it's all there.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor about accepting the minutes. All those in favor, say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Right?
Oh, anybody opposed? Motion is approved. Okay. Now our next issue, I believe, is to hear from Ryan about the airport runway and south apron engineering design task order number 7 award recommendation. Is this your moment?
I'll take from there, Tom. Thanks. So staff has negotiated and received FAA approval for the proposed scope for engineering and design services for the airport runway rehabilitation project, including the south apron area. The south apron would be from just the north side of the FBO building to the south end of the apron. The issue for the commission today is whether to recommend the council award this task order. The airport runway was initially constructed in 1953 with a 2-inch asphalt surface over 6-inch crushed rock and 6 inches of aggregate subbase. In 1992, the runway was overlaid with an additional 2.5 inches of asphalt. Various maintenance activities have happened over the years, with the most recent being a crack seal project in 2022. The runway has various longitudinal and transverse cracking occurring on the surface. In 2024, the Oregon Department of Aviation performed a pavement evaluation program at the airport, establishing a pavement condition index for all of the asphalt surfaces at the airfield. The pavement condition rating of fair on the south, 4,600 feet of the runway, with PCIs between 62 and 65 out of 100, and at the north, 400 feet of the runway, the rating was in good condition, and thus the rehabilitation efforts will only be on the southern 4,600 feet of the runway. In accordance with the current airport layout plan, the inner 75 feet of the runway will be rehabilitated with assistance from federal funds. To retain the 100-foot wide runway, the outer 12.5 feet on either side of the runway will have to be the responsibility of the city airport to maintain. The south apron was reconstructed in 1998 using a 3.5-inch asphalt surface over a 7-inch aggregate base course. As with the runway, there's been various pavement condition maintenance occurring over the years, and again, most recently in 2022 with crack sealing. The same 2024 Oregon Department of Aviation pavement evaluation indicated this pavement in the south apron area was satisfactory, with a pavement condition index rating of 72 to 74. Using visual inspection, the south apron has a medium severity of longitudinal and transverse cracking, with weathering occurring on the surface. In November of 2021, the city issued a request for qualifications to solicit proposals for a 5-year contract for architectural, engineering, planning, and consulting services for the airport. Mead and Hunt was awarded the contract at the January 10th, 2022 City Council meeting. Each task order under this contract will be negotiated individually and be dependent upon the approved scope of work. The city is programmed to receive an FAA grant this fiscal year for the design of this project. To be eligible to receive the grant this fiscal year, the environmental work had to be completed earlier in the year. This work was accomplished under task order number 6 of the master engineering contract and resulted in a documented categorical exclusion. The following steps have occurred prior to the task order being presented to the commission today. On September 18th of 2025, it says in the memo 26, but that was 2025, a pre-design conference with the city, FAA, and the consultant was held. An environmental survey was conducted in February of 26. On April 15th, our consultant submitted the documented categorical exclusion report to the FAA for review. And on April 17th, the FAA determined that the proposed project meets the requirements. A draft scope of work for this design project was submitted to the FAA on April 6th. The FAA provided comments quickly on April 7th, and those changes were included into the revised scope of work. The consultants submitted their initial fee proposal on May 13th. The city contracted with Century West Engineering for an independent fee estimate, and that's required by FAA on contracts that are over $100,000. We have to reach out to another engineering firm to validate the cost proposal that we were provided. The approved scope of work was provided to Century West on April 28th, and their fee estimate was provided to staff on May 13th. Staff performed a detailed cost analysis and found that the independent fee estimate was 2% lower than the consultant's fee proposal. And per FAA guidelines, if the independent fee estimate that we receive is within 10% of our consultant's original fee, it is considered valid and reasonable. And there's no additional negotiations required. The negotiated scope of work includes services through bidding. The environmental and engineering services grant is scheduled for fiscal year 2026 and does not include construction management services. In prior meetings with the Airport Commission, there's been discussion about the runway width. Kind of touched on it briefly earlier. We're still under the same guidelines with the FAA that the center 75 feet is available for FAA funding, and the city will have to figure out options for maintaining that outer 12.5 feet on each side to keep that 100-foot width. And this is kind of kicking that off. This is the design scope. So once we get the consultant under contract, I'll start working with them on those options on how we maintain that outer 12.5 feet. And then we'll present some options and costing to the commission. The fee proposal from Mead and Hunt for this design work is $466,319. As I mentioned earlier, this proposal and the independent fee estimate that we got is within FAA guidelines. So staff will submit the results of the IFE to the FAA for review and approval. In the memo, I've identified the approximate funding breakdown that we'll be seeking. This design contract is eligible for a 95% funding from the FAA, which is just over $443,000 of that $466,000. That leaves a remainder of just over $23,000, which we'll seek an ODA grant for just under $21,000 of that cost, leaving city funding on this at $2,332. If the commission forwards a recommendation to award the task order, it will be presented to the city council at their June 8th meeting. Design would proceed shortly after, with bidding on the project occurring in early 2027. Money has been included in the proposed fiscal year 26-27 budget. Staff recommends the commission forward a recommendation to the city council to award task order number 7 to Mead and Hunt for the design phase of the airport runway and South Apron rehabilitation project. And with that, I'll answer any questions on it.
Yeah, I've got one. What about sustaining engineering during the manufacturing process? In other words, you're halfway through the encounter an engineering problem. Is Mead Hunt on the hook for that?
Are you referring to the construction management when we get under
Yes,
construction?
sir.
So that'll be part of the construction grant. So this time next year, we should have bids in hand for the construction work. And we'll be presenting that to the FAA for funding.
Okay.
And that will also include not just the contractor's portion of the construction, but the engineer's management portion of it.
Okay. Well, that will be Mead and Hunt, right?
It will be, yes.
Thank you.
The engineering portion, you know,
Can you hit your mic, Dan, so others can hear?
on the engineering portion, you know what has been discussed, but I don't, or we don't. You know, we talk about 75 feet is all the FAA is going to pay for. How is that going to be incorporated into our, hopefully, plan of maintaining 100 feet?
So there's a few things that we're going to look at when we get the engineer under contract. There's different options on how we maintain that outer 12.5 feet. If we were just to seal coat it, leave it as is, treat it with as a rehab like the center 75 feet. There's some additional factors involved that we're going to have to look at with the FAA. One of them is how the storm drainage is handled. Right now, that outer 12.5 feet is a reverse grade, so it creates a valley gutter, and all the storm water that sheds off of the runway collects in that outer 12.5 feet and then gets into our catch basins. So if the runway were to be narrowed to 75 feet, the whole drainage system would have to be looked at as well. In addition to that, if the runway were to be narrowed, the runway lights would have to be moved inward.
That was my other concern.
So those are all going to factor into the decision and some of that discussion with the FAA.
How will that be resolved again? Whether we leave the additional material on the side of the runway, that is, does the commission get involved in that, or?
The plan is
How do we resolve it?
the plan is to put together some options, and then we'll discuss it with the commission. Each option is going to have a different dollar amount
Right.
on what it takes to maintain that, and we'll have to look at our airport fund to see what we can manage to do with that outer 12.5 feet with the funds that we have available.
Yeah, that'll certainly require additional funding for maintenance of the apron. The area that's not going to be repaved.
You're talking about the outer 12.5 feet of the
Yeah,
runway?
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does the city have a position on maintaining the 25 feet?
I think we've heard from the commission that the commission wants to try to keep this runway at 100 feet wide. So that's why we want to look at options so we can present that to the
Right.
commission and have that discussion.
Thank you.
Yeah, Tom?
When Mead and Hunt gives us our proposal for the runway rehabilitation, will it be explicitly for just 75 feet, or will it include the 100 feet?
This proposal includes the 100 feet, the south apron, everything in the memo. There's a map that's highlighted the work area. Yeah, that has to be included in this design, regardless of which way we go. If we go 75 feet, there's a lot of storm and the lighting that we just talked about. If we keep it at 100 feet wide, we've got to look at that outer 12.5 feet and how we're going to maintain it.
Yeah, and so this proposal by Mead and Hunt, does it include both 100 feet and 75 feet?
It includes looking at up to 100 feet wide.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brian, if I understand correctly, the current issue at hand for this proposal is just for the design phase of the runway, not the final decision as to what dimensions are going to be and so on. This is just to do the design work and figure it out how we're going to best accomplish what we need to accomplish. Is that correct?
This proposal will go further than that, Clint, but that is the initial task of the proposal is
Okay.
to do that preliminary design work and put some cost to it. But this proposal gets us all the way through bidding services next spring.
Gotcha. Okay. So the decisions on how to best negotiate the outer edges of the runway are going to have to be dealt with throughout this design phase, I assume, and we'll be faced with trade-offs there in terms of which way we want to go and what makes the most sense. Is that accurate?
That is accurate, and I would anticipate bringing that information to the commission in August.
Okay.
Early on in the design, because the engineer is going to need to know which direction the city's heading with that outer 12.5 feet.
Right, because we're going to be dealing with added expense regardless, whether we seal it, pave it, abandon it, reconfigure storm drains, runway lighting, etc. We're going to be dealing with something there in some way, shape, or form.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Well, that being the case, I move to recommend the City Council award task order number 7 to Mead and Hunt for the design of the airport runway and South Apron rehabilitation project design phase for $466,319.
I'll second.
Okay, the motion has been recommended and seconded. Now, is there any more discussion about it? Okay, in that case, let's take a vote. By raising of the hands, I suppose, would be good. Okay, motion passes unanimously. Now comes the time when I'd like to hear from anybody who has anything that they'd like to speak up about the airport and what's going on out there and what's in the future.
Looking across the street, it sure is improved on the fencing being replaced alongside the railroad tracks.
It's looking good, isn't it?
Yeah, fencing looks great.
It's only been since I've lived here, and that was from 1958.
Yeah, it's a lot of brushes come out of there. There's still a lot of cleanup to do.
Yeah, it's ugly at the south end right now, but I'm not going to complain.
Yeah, but if you get to the end of it and look straight, that thing's as straight as a bullet. The fence is.
From the air.
It's just straight.
Yeah. But we did have the property line surveyed prior to that fencing going in, so they had good markings to go from.
Did it move 15 feet?
It was about 15 feet. I didn't actually put a tape on it, Tom, but that's ballpark, plus or minus a foot.
Any other items that anybody like to talk about? Those are for goodies. I have a question. Last meeting, we we asked about the taxiway, this is for you, Ryan, taxiway, center line, and tie-down markings, perhaps they needed some enhancement. Has that occurred? Or?
It has not. It's not the right time of year to be painting. Our paint machine doesn't have a heated applicator. We typically paint the streets in late July, early August. So we'll be looking at it at that time.
Okay, thanks.
And I want to look at that south apron area to see how the markings are there. I don't want to put a lot of effort into that if we're grinding it out in a year. So I don't want to waste effort and then tear it out.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the end of our meeting. Thanks for coming, you guys.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Good.